My dear, loyal brothers Hüsrev, Mehmet Feyzi, and Sabri, trusting in you with all my strength, I was expecting to enter the grave with peace of mind and to leave to you the welfare of the Risale-i. I was certain that nothing at all could part you from each other. Now, there is an official communication concerning ghastly plans to create differences between the leading Risale-i students. Since, as necessitated by the strength of your loyalty and your intense concern for the Risale-i, you are ready to sacrifice your lives for one another if necessary, certainly you are bound to sacrifice your extremely trivial, temporary, and unimportant feelings. It will otherwise cause untold harm at this juncture, and I tremble at the possibility of anyone leaving the Risale-i circle. For the last 3 days, I have again been shaken by distress, such as I have never before experienced. I have now understood certainly that petulance, as slight as a hair on the eye, on the part of those like yourselves, has the effect of a bombshell on our lives with the Risale-i. I will tell you this even. Much effort was made during that storm to connect us with it. Now they are trying to distance you from one another. Although I have suffered 10 times more than you for your sake, I have decided not to see the faults of any of you. I ask of you, in the name of our Master, the Risale-i's collective personality, not to insist on your own way, whether justified or not. If in that extraordinary place hidden fingers are stirring things up with your being together, one of you move to Tahiri's word. Said Nursi. My dear, loyal brothers, please do not be offended at the great importance I have given to the three of you being annoyed at each other. For like me, Hüsrev and Feyzi are somewhat unsociable and reserved. They also differ from each other in temperament. As for Sabri, he is involved in the life of society through his relatives and manner of his livelihood, and is obliged to be cautious. Since, due to these differences of ways and temperaments, the three of you have probably been unable to maintain your patience and forbearance in the uproar of the world and its noisy crowd, I become alarmed and suspicious. For only slight opposition at present causes much harm. Said Nursi. My dear, loyal brothers and fellow students in the school of Joseph, the holy night of acquittal tonight is like a sacred seat of the whole year and the program of human destiny, and is therefore as holy as the night of power. Just as all good works on the night of power yield 30,000 merits, so on this night of acquittal, the merits of such acts and for each letter of the Quran rise to 20,000. If at other times such merits are 10, during the 3 months of Rajab, Shaban, and Ramadan, they rise to 100 or 1,000. Then, on the well-known holy nights, they rise to tens of thousands, or 20 or 30,000. These nights may be the equivalent of 50 years of worship. It is highly profitable to be occupied as far as one can with the Quran, seeking divine forgiveness, and uttering prayers for the Prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace. Said Nursi. In his name be he glorified. May the peace of God be upon you, and his mercy and blessings. I congratulate you with all my heart and soul for the night of acquittal, which may gain for the believers the equivalent of 50 years of worship. I await with complete certainty from divine mercy that through the mystery of spiritual partnership and the effulgence of solidarity, like some angels who utter glorifications with 40,000 tongues, all the purely sincere Risale-i students will be performing their worship and seeking forgiveness as though with 40,000 tongues. Said Nursi. In his name be he glorified. Firstly, at the suggestion of some Hojas who support the innovations, the indictment has objected to a matter in the 5th ray, as though it does not accept the coming of the Islamic Antichrist, Dajjal, and numerous other antichrists. An answer to this is the sound hadith, a brilliant and certain miracle of the Prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace. The caliphate will continue with the sons of my uncle Abbas until it passes into the destructive hands of the Antichrist. That is, the Abbasid Caliphate will continue for the lengthy period of 500 years, then it will be wiped out by one of the three Antichrists, known as Cengiz and Hulagu, then he will treacherously rule within Islam. That is, as is indicated by numerous hadiths, there is clear evidence that three Antichrists will appear in the Islamic world. The predictions made by the above hadiths are two clear miracles. The first is that the Abbasid Caliphate, which was to come into existence, would continue for 500 years. The second was that it would come to an end at the cruel, destructive hand of an Antichrist called Cengiz and Hulagu. Is that all possible that the owner of the Sharia, who in the books of Hadith foretold even the most minor things related to the Quran and merits of Islam, should not have foretold the extraordinary events of our times? And is it at all possible that there should be no allusions to the Risale-i students who steadfastly served the Quran in the midst of those strange events, in the widest sphere and under the severest conditions, and the fruits of whose service are affirmed by friend and foe alike? Said Nursi. In his name be he glorified. And they are covered by humiliation and misery. One fine point about this verse. My dear brother Rafat Bey, commander of the Risale-i and servants of the Quran, the Jewish nation has always been excessive in its love of life and this world, and has therefore deserved the blows of abasement and misery it has received every century. However, in the Palestine question, it is not love of life and this world, but a significant sort of national and religious feeling, because Palestine is where the prophets of the children of Israel are buried, and the prophets belong to their nation. In consequence, they have received no swift blows. A small group could never otherwise have held out in the midst of the West Arab lands. It would quickly have been humiliated. Said Nursi. Question. Is there any verse stating that the earth is round? And if so, which surah is it in? I am hesitant as to whether it is flat or round. All countries are situated in lands surrounded by sea. What is there to keep in the outer edges of the seas? I request that you provide an explanation, and I kiss your hands. Emir Dağlı Ali Hoca. The Risale-i has solved questions of the sort. The Islamic scholars have accepted that the earth is round, and this in no way contradicts religion. The word Seth in the verse does not indicate that the earth is not round. It has been laid down by the learned authorities that to be turned towards the Qibla, Istiqbal-i Qibla, while performing the prayers is obligatory, and this is applicable to every part of the prayers, including the bowing and prostrating. Since, according to the Sharia, there is a luminous line from the Kaaba upwards as far as the divine throne and downwards to the ground, performing all the actions of the prayers in the direction of the Qibla is possible with the earth being round. Said Nursi. In his name be he glorified, and there is nothing but it glorifies him with praise. May God's peace and mercy be upon you and his blessings forever and ever. My dear, loyal brothers, I congratulate you with all my heart and soul on the blessed month of Ramadan. May Almighty God make the night of power the equivalent of 1,000 months for all of you, and accept it as an 80-year lifetime of worship. Amen. Secondly, I am of the opinion that there are numerous benefits and instances of good in our remaining here until the festival. If we were to be released now, we would both lose out on all the good of this school of Joseph and spoil Ramadan, which looks purely to the hereafter, and taint our spiritual states with worldly activities. In accordance with good lies in what God wishes, we shall find great joy in this, God willing. You have also understood in the court that since they can in no way convict us with their laws, they discuss trifling things of no importance, like some petty matters in some petty letters which have less connection with the law than a fly's wing. For they have found no way to attack the significant, universal matters of the Risale-i. Also, they are slandering my person so as to deprive it of importance instead of the widespread, general Risale-i and its students is very advantageous for us. Divine determining does not allow them to interfere with the Risale-i and its students and preoccupies them with myself. So I say to you and to all my friends, for the well-being of you and the Risale-i, I accept wholeheartedly, even with my evil commanding soul's agreement, and with joy and gratitude, all the difficulties inflicted on my person. Just as paradise is not inexpensive, so hell is not unnecessary. The world and its tribulations are transitory and fleeting. Also, since we shall be avenged 100 times over at the last judgment, and in part in this world, for the ill treatment we receive at the hands of our coward enemies, we should feel sorry for them rather than angry. Since the reality is this, it is truly good fortune to submit without alarm and with caution and perfect patience and thanks to whatever divine determining has decreed for us, and to trust in divine grace which protects us, and with truly sincere, consoling, and heartfelt friendliness and love for our brothers here, together with them busy ourselves with our supplications, which in Ramadan yield 1,000-fold reward, and with our study and reading try not to give importance to these minor passing hardships. The Risale-i's giving instruction in this most important examination and trial, and its making its enemies read it, is a significant victory for it. Note, it is certainly bad that some of our brothers are unnecessarily denying that they are students of the Risale-i, especially, and that they are considering their considerable past services. But because of the service, we should forgive them and not feel angry at them. Said Nursi. In His name be He glorified, and there is nothing but it glorifies Him with praise. My dear, loyal brothers, firstly, it is stated in sound narrations, seek the night of power in the second half of Ramadan, especially in the last 10 days. It is therefore a great happiness to try to profit from the night of power, which may gain for a person an 80-year lifetime of worship, and which is probably among the coming nights. Secondly, according to the meaning of whoever believes in divine determining is saved from grief and sorrow, and look on the good side of things, and those who listen to the word and follow the best meaning in it, those are the ones whom God has guided, and those are the ones endued with understanding. We should now look on the good side of everything, the aspect that affords ease of mind, so that meaningless, unnecessary, harmful, ugly, distressing, temporary circumstances do not hold our attention and preoccupy our minds. In the 8th word, one man entered a garden while another left it. The fortunate man looked at the flowers and beautiful things and relaxed and enjoyed himself. But the unfortunate one looked only at the dirty, ugly things, although he was unable to clean them up, so he was nauseated and upset instead of resting, and then went on his way. Now, the stages of man's social life, and especially the school of Joseph, resembles a garden. It contains both ugly and beautiful things, and distressing and happy things. The sensible person is he who busies himself with the beautiful, happiness-inducing things, and ignores the ugly, distressing things, and offer thanks happily instead of complaining querulously. Said Nursi. My dear, loyal brothers. Firstly, there is a strong possibility that tomorrow night is the night of power. Some of the scholarly authorities stated it is tomorrow, even if it is not in fact, since the Ummah consider it to be so. God willing, it will be accepted as such. Secondly, I am anxious about the comfort of our brothers in Ward 6, where there was a disturbance. There is a finger from outside which stirs up the prison, and particularly Ward 6. Our brothers there should be careful and cautious and not get mixed up in anything. Thirdly, have you sent the piece to the lawyer to have it read to the chairman of the court? Also, because it is the same matter, Halil Hilmi is not only Sabri's lawyer, but everyone's. That is how I look on him. He should now assist our first lawyer on account of all of us. Fourthly, I gave Taşköprülü Sadık Bey's introduction to Sabri to write out. If it has already been written out, the part that has been corrected should be sent to him. A newly written out copy should be sent to me. I have a copy of Sadık's short poem here. If you do not have a copy, I shall send it to you. Said Nursi. My dear, loyal brothers, firstly, I send congratulations both for your festival and for that of your fellow prisoners. I consider those who exchange greetings with you to have greeted me. It is as though I have made the festival visits on all of them. You should know this and you should tell them. Secondly, due to the warning of my cast iron stove disintegrating without reason, and our acting with complete caution and self-restraint, in consequence, the force of that squall was reduced 100-fold, and the gunpowder did not ignite. Now, again, my water flask, disintegrating extraordinarily without reason, informs us that we should again behave with perfect self-composure, patience, and caution. It was imparted to me that coward dissemblers want to employ depraved profligates and apostatizing communists against the religiously minded people. They are even trying to interfere here. Note: yesterday I felt happy and joyful. Then I realized that my brother in Nurs had 8 months previously sent some Nurs honey in a flask to me in Emirdağ. Yesterday it arrived here from Emirdağ. I told them to quickly bring it to me. I waited, but it was not brought. My happiness suddenly turned into anger. It was the cause of that flask with the honey, which in my eyes was 100 times more precious than the flask being given to a stranger and sent to the market, and then the flask suddenly broke. I have sent an amount of that sweet honey, a gift from the village of Nurs, my birthplace, so that all my brothers may have a taste of it as a festival sweet. My dear, loyal, and unshakable brothers, I congratulate you with all my heart at your quickly healing that wound of ours. I felt completely easy last night as a result. In fact, the Madrasat-u Zehra is expanding, and the true sincerity, self-sacrifice, and abandoning of egotism and complete humility of the Risale-i Nur circle are being adopted and are spreading. Certainly, very petty and temporary sensitivity, irritability, and petulance cannot spoil its powerful teachings and the bonds of brotherhood. The treatise on sincerity is the best advice on this point. Their worst strategy now in striking at us and the Risale-i Nur and agitating us is to make the Risale-i Nur students look coldly on each other by playing on differences in their ideas and temperaments and to separate them from each other. For sure, it was only a minor thief, but only a hair on the eye causes as much pain as a stone, so that my flask gave news of it as though it were a major incident. The late Hafiz Ali, may God be pleased with him, complaining shortly before his death about a very minor such situation, has come to mind perhaps 100 times and saddened me. Said Nursi. My dear, loyal brothers, I gave the students written objections to the prison governor. I told him, we want to send these, together with the end part of my written objections, to the Directorate of Religious Affairs and Ankara Criminal Court, which acquitted us and our treatises, and if it is appropriate, to send to the list of errors and corrections, but privately and just for the information. He said, it is appropriate. Now you may ask the lawyer to prepare several copies of the students' written objections and 2 copies of the list. Also, write to the Directorate of Religious Affairs and say, since you wrote perfectly correctly in the report about Said and his friends, you said to Afyon this time that it is your duty to defend scholars of religion, both the oppressed Said and his innocent companions are extremely grateful to your department. Anyway, our case is related to religion and learning, so the Department of Religious Affairs should be concerned with it before the police, judiciary, or any other department. For this reason, both in Denizli and Afyon, we applied firstly to your department, sending our complaints to the scholars there. Write a paragraph expressing this meaning. Said Nursi. My dear, loyal brother Refet Bey, out of respect for the Quran of mighty stature and for the sake of your relations with the Quran and in honor of your 20 years of service to believe through the Risale-i Nur, quickly put an end to this apparently small, but because of the sensitivity of our situation, terrible and grievous quarrel between you. For it greatly assists the coward dissemblers who are trying to destroy us, and is like putting a match to gunpowder. There is otherwise a strong possibility that because of an ounce of personal rights, tons of harm will come to us and our service of the Quran and belief. I swear that if one of you was to insult me most terribly and entirely trample my honor, but not give up serving the Quran, belief, and the Risale-i Nur, I would forgive him and make peace with him and try not to be offended. You know that our enemies try to take advantage of the slightest unmannerliness, so make it up quickly. Stop being petulant, which is meaningless and so harmful. Otherwise, like Shamsi, Shafiq, and Tawfiq, some of us will apparently join those who oppose us, causing great harm and deficiency to our service of belief. Up to now, divine favor has made up for any losses by bestowing numerous others who work on the same system. God willing, it will again come to our aid. Said Nursi. My dear, loyal brothers, the governor evidently very much liked the supreme sign and a guide for youth. Now he wants the staff of Moses, Asai Musa, and Zulfikar. I told him that I would bring them to him. If there are copies of them here in Afyon, set aside one each of the staff of Moses, Zulfikar, bond, large size, a guide for youth, and the supreme sign. Said Nursi. In his name be he glorified. My dear, loyal brothers, firstly, this report has had exactly the same result as the one in Denizli. They have exonerated us on the points on which we have been charged, but in order to ingratiate themselves with them and show that they are not Nurjus, and due to a vein of Wahhabism, they have attacked us with a few scholarly criticisms. I reckon this report arrived before the indictment was written, for the indictment includes some points from it. In which case, our list of errors and corrections answers them completely. What do you think of this? Also, what are my new replies like? Are they apt? I wrote them very hastily when in a wretched state. Secondly, up to now, they were apparently preoccupied with our persons and the questions of a political society, a Sufi order, and a few unimportant private letters. But now, with seizing the illuminating lamp, Sirajun Nur, and the 6 attacks, Hücumat-ı Sitte, and the experts' comedy directing attention to the Risale-i Nur and the machinations of our coward enemies, the Risale-i Nur has been attacked in a sort of way which is a means of ensuring tranquility in this country. So as with many times previously, at exactly the same time as the country was being attacked in this way, 2 severe earthquakes occurred just as I was writing that discussion. This affirmed me saying, there is no need to write it. So I did not write anymore. Then today I heard that there is fear of war. So I said to the person in charge here, whenever the Risale-i Nur is attacked, the earth either becomes angry or there is fear of war. We have experienced numerous such events so that no possibility of chance remains, and this have been pointed out to the courts. That is to say, my terrible anxiety about the Risale-i Nur recently and the jealous criticisms of the experts' comedy and the confiscation of an important part of the Risale-i Nur, although I did not realize it, coincided with the illuminating lamp, which is like acceptable almsgiving and a means of repelling disaster, disappearing behind the veil of concealment, the earthquake, and fear of the outbreak of war. Said Nursi. In His name be He glorified. My dear, loyal brothers, do not worry, we are under divine protection. There are numerous instances of mercy interspersed among the outward difficulties. The experts' committee was obliged to object to one piece, but certainly they have become Nurjus at heart. Said Nursi. In His name be He glorified. My dear, loyal, unshakable, undismayed brothers who would never give up working for the hereafter for this fleeting world. Don't be upset at remaining here a little longer and their wanting to extend our case somewhat. On the contrary, be pleased like me. For since life never stops and rushes to extinction in places of tribulation such as this, it becomes eternal through the fruits it yields for the hereafter. Moreover, the circle the Risale-i Nur teaches is expanding. For example, the scholars of the experts' committee are being obliged to study the illuminating lamp with close attention. Also, it is possible that if we were released now, it would cause deficiencies in our work for the cause of belief in one or two respects. Although the distress I suffer far exceeds yours, I do not want to be released. So, as far as you can, try to endure it patiently and become accustomed to this sort of life and to find solace and ease of mind by writing out the Risale-i Nur and reading it. Said Nursi.